welcome everyone, and if you're just coming in, come on in, have a seat, and we're happy to have you here. Welcome to Pecha Kucha 2.0, our second year of doing this. So thank you all for being here. It's nice to be out, isn't it? Last week, we all kind of were in our houses stuck, and it's nice to be out. And I know a lot of you have some things you could be doing other than being here. And I want to thank you for choosing this as your entertainment and educational option for the evening. Some of you may even have a birthday. Any birthdays out there? Oh my gosh, is that Lee Brown? Shall we all sing Lee Brown, happy birthday? All right, 1, 2, 3, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Lee. Happy birthday to you. Hi, Lee. And it was George's too. I wish he was here. Oh boy. Yeah, well, I still wish George, if you're watching, because this will be recorded, or it is being recorded. Oh, okay. So Pecha Kucha, what is Pecha Kucha? Some of you probably don't even know what you've gotten yourself involved in. Well, it's a new way of presenting. New as in it started in 2003, and Pecha Kucha literally means chit-chat. And it started in Japan by some architects and designers at Tokyo's Klein Daitham Architecture, created Pecha Kucha. And it was a way to talk less, show more. So each presenter will have 6 minutes and 40 seconds to present. They have 20 slides, 20 seconds per slide. Once the clock starts, you get 20-second slides, and it doesn't stop till you're done. And so it's a little nerve-wracking. So I want to thank all our presenters for agreeing to do this. Thank you, thank you, thank you. They're very brave. They're very brave. These time constraints can sometimes make things interesting, because things don't always go as you hope. And when you can practice, but you never know. I did one of these at a bar once, outside a bar actually. And actually a guy fired up his Harley Davidson when I was speaking. So that was a little something to overcome. And the good thing there was most people had a few drinks. Tonight, I doubt that's the case, but if you have, enjoy even more. So I think we started this as a different way to present. I thought it'd be fun, interesting, and I think, Muskegon as a town, as a community, and also Muskegon Community College, we have a story to tell. We have stories to tell, and I think pretty good ones, and we've got great people who want to tell them. And so we're going to have speakers that are both internal here to the college to showcase our great professors and our administrators here and staff. But we also have some people from the community as well that want to share a little bit about what they do, what they're interested in, and maybe a little bit about their lives. I don't know, what are there, maybe 125, 50 people in here? About 3 million people have attended Pecha Kuchas, and it's at about 1,200 cities worldwide hold Pecha Kucha nights. It's good. Muskegon's one of those, again, adding to the 1,201. And anyways, I hope you enjoy adding to the numbers of Pecha Kucha and you enjoy this. I like to think of these as kind of like extended elevator pitches. But unlike an elevator, you can't really get off. Maybe the stage, but hopefully everyone will be all right. So without further ado, I want to get us started with our first presenter, a former instructor here, recently retired, Diana Casey, used to teach geography here, and I must say, Diana is someone who welcomed me warmly when I arrived and got me involved in campus activities just about immediately upon arriving, whether that was international education experiences, or I remember we did a teach-in surrounding the Iraq War. Some of you may not have even been born yet, but that was a war we had. Look it up. But she's always been a very energetic teacher, a great colleague, and she has a really great skill of teaching geography and making it seem like the most important subject, because she always told me it was. But also, she's great with names. She knew every student, and I don't know how she did it, but anyways, that was always something I admired of her as well. She hails from the state of New Mexico, a state often not identified as part of the United States, but it actually became a state in 1912. Miss Casey, as I mentioned, recently retired and is now rearranging her life's containers to figure out what will be best to pack in new adventures. During her presentation, please reflect on the containers that have moved you and your stuff from place to place. So please help me welcome to the stage, Diana Casey.
Hi, I'm Diana Casey. Welcome. And we're going to start now. I attended over 8 different schools before I finished the 6th grade. I lived at over 30 different addresses before I graduated from high school, and I never lived in a place for more than 3 years until I came to West Michigan. Yeah, before my first birthday, my parents moved us from the Castle Apartments in Albuquerque, New Mexico to Los Angeles, California. They thought it'd be really cute to pack me in a cardboard box with some boots in the back of a trunk of that car. Okay, I lost the original picture, but you get the point. In the 60s, my grandmother and my mother got a roof rack, put it on the top of that little red Volkswagen, packed everything that we would need, clothes, stuff, whatever, and we left for the island of Guam, where we lived multiple 2-year teaching contracts. When we left Guam, well, we ate on the dishes, threw them away, wore the clothes, threw them away, and Mother gave us a cardboard box. That's all we got to bring back. Bicycles were given away to other kids. Sad, sad. Then I did get to go to Michigan Tech, my first university. Mother's idea, ooh, pack this girl in a Sears steamer trunk. Yes, and this is what you send your engineering children with. They get a Singer sewing machine from the 1950s and a tackle box converted to a sewing box. Somehow, back in New Mexico, now I gotta figure out how to move back in that little AMC Pacer. So how do I get the steamer trunk, the tackle sewing box, the sewing machine, and the 65-pound dog all in the little car to come back? I applied for student teaching through Western Michigan University. I had to write this autobiography thing. I titled it, I Grew Up in 2 Suitcases, one for my physical things, one for my experiences. The committee said, you're kind of odd, you're not normal, rewrite, resubmit. Mrs. Phyllis, mother's friend, made me my first teaching bags. This red bag, then another red bag, and the black bag. Handles wore out, but my students that I took to Europe knew to watch for the flowered bag because there were tens of thousands of dollars of traveler's checks. First full-time teaching job, Eddie Bauer built the bag to last. This bag I carried in all my full-time teaching till I retired here in 2024. And I always kept some student notes in there to keep me inspired. Well, I met my husband, I call him Mr. Bicycle, and he taught me how to travel another way with these red panniers. I know how to travel across the country, go on trips, you name it, everything I need to live with in the red bag. Oh, we did travel other places. And you've seen those black bags and the carousels at the luggage rack, Bubba. Mr. Bicycle said, let's paint our bicycle rides on the bags. They'll never get lost. And sure enough, Russia, Turks and Caicos, our luggage showed up. Oh yeah, we went to Russia a couple times with these little bags, 2 carry-ons for the 2 of us, 1 bag of clothes, 1 bag of food. My birthday, I was bestowed with all these beautiful gifts from friends, our Russian friends. So to get them all home, we gave away the clothes and brought the treasures. So we traveled across the United States in 2000. We did the Rhine River through the heart of Europe in the 90s. But you see that little green tent? That's what I lived in for over 25 years. And those red panniers, watch, carried my stuff. Luxury trips, we went on week-long bicycle tours. I got a plastic tub, meaning I didn't have to sleep with those panniers every night. But another little red bag I carried, always with my toiletries, to the shower. And I did still keep a pannier for a pillow. In 2008, I started a writing program. My invisible stories are recorded now. I do about 3 pages every morning. It's all embellished with my own artwork with cutouts. My family's from northern New Mexico. I spend summers often there working cattle. So there's my car, my other container. I have to drive 9 miles to get cell service. I taught 2 online courses 9 miles from the family ranch, from the back seat of that car. I have these beautiful dogs, Lily, Paloma, Linda, and Chili Roja. I do all kinds of dog competitions, agility, obedience, freestyle dance, that's my favorite because it's most creative. I do a lot of choreography, but the dog tools carry in the red striped bag. Got tired of sleeping on the ground in those nasty hotels. I got me a camper. Now, 2 dog crates, 2 X-Pens. Oh no, it's 4 dog crates. And all our stuff, you see the suitcase over there. And one time we traveled back from Charlevoix, and I brought 7 large ducks back with me with 2 dogs. But moved here to West Michigan, I now have a house. So all my stuff is in that little 810 square feet house. Please, I need help decluttering. I don't understand that. And now here I am, all these containers, but the one I treasure is the invisible suitcase, my experiences, and that's what I shared with students for decades.
That was great. What a good start, huh? All right, that's beautiful. You can see why we miss Diana so much, and but appreciated all the years she spent at MCC teaching students. And we're going to keep it with our faculty. We've got our next is Nicholas Budimir. Some of you may know Mr. Budimir. I know him quite well because I teach across from him every day. And thankfully, it's not a competition because I definitely lose. He's a great instructor. As one colleague once said to me, I said to him, I said, what do you think it takes to be a good instructor? And he said, I don't really know, but just try to be like Nick. And I said, all right, so that's what I aspire to be like him. But he is always running around. He's hugging students. He's helping them out. And I think, he's good because he's smart, well prepared. He's passionate, he's funny, and especially he's caring. And he wants students to succeed, and he wants them to get better education and skills for their future. He is a full-time instructor of sociology and he's president of our faculty union, very important role these days, and he does teach, union studies. And so he really does a nice job at the college. He went to U of M, but he also went to Wayne State, and he will tell you he learned a lot more at Wayne State than he learned at U of M. I went to Wayne State, so that's why I'm saying that. Anyways, but I think you're going to really enjoy him. And so without further ado, please let me introduce Nicholas Budimir and his talk, A Brief History of Mass Deportations.
Thank you, Dr. Weibel, and I absolutely forgot to send him a bio. Go. Are you enthusiastic about mass deportations? Here is a few moments to consider. After World War I and the Greco-Turkish War of 1919 and 1922, some 1,100,000 Orthodox Christians, many Turkish-speaking, were transferred to Greece. Nearly 400,000 Greek-speaking Muslims were sent to Turkey. In the 1930s, during the Depression, perhaps 2 million Mexicans and Mexican Americans were deported, expelled, or self-deported under fear. Here, Los Angeles, 1932. 8-term Congressman Esteban Torres, his father was deported during the 1930s. He never saw him again. Japanese Americans being deported to Manzanar, California, April 1st, 1942. Individuals of Japanese ancestry at the Santa Anita Assembly Center. Again, April of 1942, another mass deportation within the country. Here you'll see documents I discovered showing that my grandparents sheltered refugees in occupied Nazi Yugoslavia in 1941. You might be able to read some German on the documents. Former forced or slave laborers brought to work in German industry. These Russians wait as refugees. At the end of the Second World War, Germans from across Eastern Europe were relocated, expelled, or evacuated into Germany, perhaps 12 million. In 1944, Stalin sent perhaps 500,000 Chechens and Ingush into exile into Kazakhstan. Here, in 1957, many survivors begin to return. After inviting thousands of migrant workers from Mexico during the 1940s into the U.S., farm owners started employing undocumented workers. Perhaps hundreds of thousands were deported in 1954 in Operation Wetback. Headlines at the time, 1954, the operation relied on fear to drive many to deport voluntarily. In Chicago, during the early 1980s, people protest U.S. support to El Salvador's military government, which helped to create conditions for refugees. Elvira Arellano has struggled for a permanent status in the U.S. for over 20 years. She began cleaning planes at O'Hare Airport and has been detained, deported, and began the modern church sanctuary movement. 1994, divisive Prop 107, California, limited access to social support to unauthorized migrants and to health services, ruled unconstitutional and changed California politics. In Europe, a bus with people being deported to Afghanistan, 2017. A refugee on the Greek Isle of Lesbos is escorted onto a ship for deportation, 2016. And elsewhere in the Americas, Haitians are detained in the Dominican Republic for deportation to Haiti, 2024. Palestinian day laborers deported to the Gaza Strip war zone, November 2023. So, are you still enthusiastic?
All right. Well, that was moving. As you can see, this approach to storytelling and presentation can lead to different types of presentation. We got a diversity of them with us today. And as I mentioned, he's a very funny man, but not in that talk. He also is very passionate about making the world a better place and pointing out important information we need to know. Our next speaker is Sue Salmonego. And our first speaker, Diana Casey, actually helped me to know how to say Sue's name. She says, just look, it's Salmonego. Salmonego, see? So thank you for that. That's how she does it. And she serves as the Chief Advancement Officer of MCC. What's an advancement officer? Well, she runs our foundation. She helps with fundraising and with grant writing and that type of thing. And she's been here over a year, probably a year and a half or so, and has really hit the ground running. And really is doing a wonderful job in her field, and also seems to really want to have some great projects to fundraise for and to make the foundation a much more involved group than it has been in the past at the college. And so it's been really nice to work with Sue, and I hope she stays for many years here. So a little bit about her beyond that. She earned a Bachelor's of Science and Master's of Art degree from Eastern Michigan University, a certificate in nonprofit management from the University of Illinois, Chicago, and a certificate in high performance leadership from Cornell. A lover of nature and the arts, she has too many hobbies for her own good. And her husband, Robert, is a business faculty member at Overbrook College, and her adopted son is a chemical engineer in southwest Minnesota. And so please help me welcome our next speaker, Sue Samaniego, The Path of Most Resistance.
I mostly did this just so I could hear what Andy would say about me. Okay, let's go. In the 1970s, my school yearbook showed very few options for women or girls in terms of career futures: nurse, teacher, secretary, model, airline hostess, and mother. In my book, I wrote in veterinarian, nurse, singer, scientist, and psychologist. As a first-generation college student, my parents really wanted us to go, or all of my brothers and I, to go to directly to a career from whatever focus we started with. So I really had a hard time figuring that out. But a high school project that we had to come up with what were we going to do. I used microfiche, that tells you a little bit about my age, to look up a career. I found something called speech-language pathology and thought, what the heck is that? But I realized it was a combination of medicine, psychology, education, and science, and that fit pretty much everything I wanted to do. So I went off to Eastern Michigan University as a Huron. So it was a while back. Sellers Hall was where I moved in, and I spent most of my time in the ugliest building on campus, Rackham Hall, which is where special education was housed. I took full-time classes and also had to do clinicals, and also worked part-time at Arborland Mall in Burlington Coat Factory. It was lovely. Most of my roommates were in things that didn't have clinicals, so they would write their papers, read their books, and then go have fun, and I had to do all the extra stuff. In grad school, I was still in the ugliest building on campus. I was now an Eagle instead of a Huron, and I had an internship, 2 night classes, and full-time work as I moved forward. Well, I had time for that one. After graduating, I moved immediately to Seattle and was a generalist in private practice. Soon moved home because that was just too far away, and ended up at Henry Ford Medical Center in a 900-bed teaching hospital doing a residency with the Department of Neurology. It was not easy. But I realized that I missed that 15-week change in topics, new things to learn every 15 weeks. So I started to do travel therapy, where you move around and do 13-week placements. You have to learn everything really fast. You get to fix problems and leave before the politics set in. It was a wonderful thing. In my final placement, I ended up in New Mexico, a place near Roswell called Hagerman, very poor area. Met my husband there, oddly. And that is our house that we lived in. We lived in a cinder block home. It actually had a floor instead of dirt floor, which was big for there. But very poor place, and I learned a lot about different places in the world. But it was too hot, so we moved to Colorado, where my husband was from. Not a lot of opportunity for me there, another very small town. So I spent a lot of time moving from job to job, trying to figure out what was going to work for me. I was overloaded, overworked, overlooked, and undervalued, which led me to a lot of burnout. I won an art therapy session at a fair, and I drew something resembling this. I'm a much better artist than this, but this is what I drew to show how I wanted to, how I felt in my job. And the art therapist said after this, she said, "Sue, it looks like you're reaching for something new, but in order to get there, you have to let go of the past." And that was a big thing for me. So I had an idea. I needed to focus on the skills I had and not the degrees that I had. And I wanted freedom and creativity. A job came open at Otero Junior College, and it was the director of communications and PR, and I realized I was doing communications and PR, so I applied. I got the job. My job included a lot of things. I was the president's assistant, the public information officer, media relations, photography, writing, strategy, systems, projects. I called myself the director of everything no one else wants to do. I also worked along with the foundation director and found that that was my love. I really loved what I was doing. So I went on to get the other certificates to back myself up, built our alumni outreach, our individual giving. It had so much potential there, but they weren't interested in growing their foundation. So I found our sister college that was. And I moved, actually I went and interviewed, and they said, so, it's a gigantic mess. We have poor donor relations. We have messy records. We have fights between our two campuses. There are fist fights at our foundation board meetings. And I said, hell yeah, I'm in. So I went there. And I cleaned up everything, the books, the board, the closets. And 1 year in, COVID. Even through that, I was able to really grow the foundation there. We had a 128% increase in that time that I was there, but a leadership change made it so that I needed to leave, and so did 50% of the other people there. So I started reevaluating. This is my coach. She's my executive coach that I work with for about 4 years. I got a side business where I was life coaching and doing some staff development and just not finding anything that fit. My 2023 word of the year was attract. I decided that I was going to let what is for me come to me, and that included the position here at MCC. It was strategic and hands-on. It was in Michigan, which is where I'm from, so I put myself out there, and I found a truly authentic fit. I do, Andy, hope to finish out here. I have never taken the easy way, and I probably never will, but I'm learning to flow and let the things that are for me come to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. That was great. That was great. All right. I mentioned how brave it is for folks to come up here and give these talks and these constraints, and the slides are moving and you got to keep up. But as I also mentioned, this is the second time we've done it. So last year we did this and we had some great speakers. It was a great experience. If any, I think some of you are out there. How about you stand up if you gave a talk last year? Huh? Hey. I know the doctor's telling me. We had some great speakers. So if you ever want to talk to them, see how it went and all that. And you can see it. We have this is part of the Muskegon Community College Lecture Series. And if you get on to that, just type that into Google. You'll see a link to last year's presentations, and you can rewatch this year's over and over and over again. So hope you do. All right. Next up is Tonette Brown Garner. And I want to say that Tonette she's been here for 23 years in the position of College Services Evening Manager. I've always enjoyed Tonette, and I must say, I probably, if I'm having a bad day, and maybe you know people like this in your life, if I'm having a bad day, sometimes I just stop by and chit-chat with Tonette a bit, because I usually feel better when I leave. And so always enjoy having Tonette around. Always brings good perspective and an uplifting approach to life. A little bit about Tonette. Prior to joining the MCC family, Tonette held positions as manager with the Learner Shop in Grand Rapids, Director of Division for Persons with Disabilities with Lutheran Services, Assistant Manager of an 802-unit apartment complex. Wow. Tonette also worked an overnight intake specialist with the Council Against Domestic Assault, a women's and children's shelter. And she said, well, that didn't pay much, she says that while this didn't pay much, her funnest job was that of a fashion merchandiser in West Michigan for a Young Miss clothing franchise store. This job, along with her time in retail management, fueled her love for fashion while helping develop her sense of style. In 2000, she married her sweetheart, Ed Garner. Tonette enjoys singing, dancing, arts, travel, family gatherings, and music. She says that music soothes her soul and is the soundtrack to her life. She says every significant event, there's a song to commemorate it. She's a social butterfly. Those who work here know that's true. She makes friends easily and is often called the life of the party. So please help me welcome Tonette Brown Gardner. And while running from my past, I found myself.
Thank you, Dr. Weibel. Hi, guys. I'm really not the speaker. My husband is, but I'm going to give it the old girl try here. So without further ado, let's go. I was raised by two loving parents in the 60s when racism was significant and pervasive. I was covered by love and protected from burns, but I suffered smoke inhalation. So it hurts me that in 2025, as a 62-year-old, I am still trying to extinguish flames that were meant to destroy my parents. Still young, hopeful, and a dreamer, I believed in the good of people. I believed the magic of possibilities, and I believed that possibilities coupled with hard work equated to dreams realized. Deep within myself, I felt the uncontrollable urge to go somewhere, anywhere, far enough to find myself. So I set out on my journey, running towards my dreams, not yet having figured out in what direction I was going, nor what steps would need to be taken to reach them. The funny thing is, I don't recall what dream I was chasing. That was my first big mistake. I journeyed on without clarity of vision, where I was going, or when I planned to get there, wherever there was. Physically, I ran alone, but emotionally, I ran with the heavy weight of my past on me. I felt myself at times running in circles and sorely lacking direction. Let's be clear. I consider myself to be a fairly intelligent person, but to be honest, although I was moving, I felt as if I was standing still because I had no SMART goals. In fact, I had set no goal at all. Nevertheless, I continued to run forward because that is what I was taught to do. I ran circles around feelings of anger, shame, fear, hurt, and distrust. They were my guiding principles, and sadly, I didn't realize it. I ran to break generational curses, but things didn't come easy for me. I am who my bloodline had been waiting for all along. Both my parents worked and together earned just enough income that made me ineligible for grant money, but not enough to pay for college. Unlike my sister, right there, my grades didn't earn me a scholarship, and there was no way I would ask the sacrifice of my parents, so I didn't. Daddy was 47 when he passed away at home in December of '84. While in the hospital, a small Christmas tree was placed at his bedside, and after that, I hated small Christmas trees. Every fresh snowfall brought tears, and every January when his birthday came around, it felt like a truck hit me. My hero, my protector, my dad was gone, and nothing was ever the same again. I experienced everything differently. There was only one person that stood between me and the burning fires that threatened to consume me, my mom, and she fought like a bear protecting her cubs. She's still here fighting, but now I know I'm protecting her. Talk about a wake-up call. My dad's death forced me into the race because time was getting away from me. I felt my ancestors cheering me onward and willing me forward, praying that I might outrun the ills of their past and creating a bridge to a better future for generations that will follow me. I couldn't pass the baton if I didn't get into the race. Wrapped up in that imaginary baton were their hopes, desires, unrealized potential, and incinerated dreams. Their prayers propelled me to outrun the horrors of their past while creating a bridge to the future. It's 2025, but I still feel the heat of 1962. I run like the future is bright, like there's a finish line, like there's a grand prize that awaits me and people like me, one that doesn't require them to fight to be seen, heard, or valued. futures that doesn't require them to put up a big fight just to live. I am hurt and tired of running and wondering if I have the stamina for this race. I've been running so long from bullies, name-calling, assaults, insecurity, lies, discrimination, imagined and real loss, loss of self-worth, loss of hope. Is it too late, or can I make up for lost time? Can I carry my weight? Can I get the job done? Look at where I am and realize I am nowhere near the finish line, and I'm concerned that time will run out before I can hand the baton off to someone younger, someone stronger, who can help us all realize our dreams, someone who can finish what was started by our ancestors. Exhausted and anxious, I muster up every ounce of strength within me. I run with all my might, discovering bits and pieces about myself and the history of my ancestors and the people I meet and shared experiences, jobs held, stories told, and memories made. I draw strength from and celebrate my past as my future comes to view. I'm on a roll now, and I'm racing to tell every young person along the way about sacrifices made and lives lost, just to carve out a brighter future for us, to warn them to run and not grow weary, that education is the great equalizer. Live well and carry the baton to others. They will need it. I am beginning to see the big picture, my destination, my purpose. Where I once lacked direction, I now realize that I was on the right road all along. While bumping into others in different situations, I was sharpening my skills and preparing myself for times such as these. The further up the road I advanced, the closer I came to finding myself. The footsteps that I thought were those of my ancestors and people along my journey were mine. Places I had traveled, love I shared, hugs I gave, meals I cooked, secrets I kept, goals I set, commitments I made. They all helped me run further than I ever imagined possible. I discovered while deadlines are important, they carry very little importance when you set out on a journey of discovery. Everyone has a different race and path, and there will be detours along the way. Don't concern yourself with that too much. Just run and make every encounter count, especially those with yourself. I realized that it wasn't my future that I ran towards, it was the past I ran from. It's not the end of my journey. It is simply handing off the baton to the future. I will be the ancestor they run for as they build bridges that future generations can cross. I am at peace because what I learned about myself is that I was destined to meet me while inspiring them. I had to be that person to become this one. Thank you.
Great talk. Thank you very much, Tonette. That was, wow. All right. We've had 4 presenters. We're going to have one more, and then we'll have a break. So about a 12-minute break or so, and there will be cookies out in the lobby. So get a cookie and get one of these flyers and get your phones out. I usually don't ask that, but put down in your calendar. This is a lecture series. The series continues on February 13th, my father's birthday, but I won't sing for him that night. But anyways, we're back here, Overbrook Theater. This is with the Muskegon Area District Libraries, which you saw in Tonette's presentation. And it is called Fact and Fiction, Media Consumption and History in America. We'll be showing part of the documentary called Recorder, the Marion Stokes Project, where she recorded television news for decades and on VHS tapes. And anyways, now they're digitized. And then there'll be a panel discussion with John Covington, Sid Simone, and Dave Alexander. So I hope you can make that and get one of the flyers. All right. Without further ado, our next presenter is Dr. Michael Kilburn, or Dr. Mickey. Dr. Kilburn teaches physics here at Muskegon Community College, and and runs our STEM club, which I think a few of you are here. If you're the STEM club, want to cheer for the STEM club. All right. Woo, STEM club. All right. So really taking doing a great job with the STEM club. I first met Dr. Kilburn. I was looking for someone to be part of the lecture series to talk about diversity in STEM. And I don't know, I got out there in the World Wide Web and looked around and saw, oh, this person does a nice talk, and contacted them and found out, hey, yeah, I'll come. I was like, really? Good. Was at Notre Dame at the time. And then Dr. Kilburn came here, and I think I followed up and said, did you get that check? And did you get home all right? And said, yeah. And oh, and by the way, I applied for a job at your college. I was like, wow. And now we got a great physics instructor, as well as Toby, too. We got another one. But a few things. Dr. Mickey has been in college for almost 3 decades, earning an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, master's degree, and a PhD from MSU. Go green. And then after that, he did go to Notre Dame as a postdoc and later became faculty there, again, as I mentioned. So I think it was a big thing to get Michael from Notre Dame, or Mick, as we all call him. He's in his 5th year of faculty at MCC, teaching physics, engineering, and statistics. And when not torturing the minds of engineering students, he enjoys being out in the woods or staying in to play video games. If you enjoy the brain pain you're about to experience, you should consider taking one of his classes. So please help me welcome Dr. Michael Kilburn, and that's why barns are red.
I'm supposed to stay in the light. This is going to be very different. All right, let's go. So if you ask Google why barns are red, the AI assistant will tell you that people paint their barns red out of a sense of tradition. Red paint also used to be cheap, and if you've got a big building, you want cheap paint. Some people might be satisfied by that, but I always ask why. Why were they red originally? Why was red paint cheaper? So for that, we need to think about what they did before paint. They would actually treat wood with linseed oil, and they would mix in some iron oxide as a fungicide, so it prevented your barn from looking like this. It would prevent mold and moss from growing on there, and the iron oxide turned things red, and so that's why our barns were red originally. Iron oxide is everywhere on a farm in the form of rust. It also comes in the form of animal blood, but I didn't think you'd want that picture. However, iron is not the only fungicide. Copper is a great fungicide. It turns green when oxidized, though, and our barns are red, not green, because iron is cheaper. So why is iron so much cheaper than copper? In order to answer that, we got to think about where these things come from. So both iron and copper come out of the ground. We dig them out. Oxygen that turns iron red and turns copper green comes from trees. Where do trees come from? The ground. But where does the ground come from? Where does Earth come from? It all started with this little protostar there that was spinning, and it's a big ball of gas, and just like a ball of pizza dough, you toss it up in the air and spin it, it flattens out into a disk. Gravity starts to grab matter together and make these clumps, and a star in the middle, which we call the sun. But how did iron get in the protostar? It all started with the Big Bang. The first microsecond of the universe only had protons. And then it took 100 seconds for protons to make hydrogen, helium, and tiny, tiny amounts of lithium. Then we had the dark ages for 100 million years before we had stars and anything else could happen. So this is our periodic table for the first 100 million years. This is a picture of a helium atom. Atoms we used to think were indivisible, the smallest basic building block. And in fact, never trust an atom because they make up everything. But now we know atoms are made up of particles, electrons, neutrons, and protons. But if we just had protons, how did we get that? Turns out you can't really get protons close to one another. They're positively charged. They don't want to be next to each other. Gravity can pull them together, but it's super weak. So really they've got to be moving fast and get close enough that the strong and weak forces take over. The weak force stronger than gravity and electro, by the way. And so they got to get close enough to overcome this, and then a proton changes into a neutron. Once a proton, not always a proton. And in fact, these things aren't even indivisible. They're made up of quarks. So proton has 2 up quarks, a down quark. Neutron has 2 down and 1 up, and it's basically the quark that flips. And these things just change back and forth between one another all the time. In fact, a neutron on its own only lasts for like 10 minutes. So to go further, I got to kind of explain isotopes to you, which are a variety of an element. Periodic table has 1 box for an element. We give them a whole row because they can have different neutron numbers, and that changes the nuclear properties. And so this thing is actually very, very big. That only goes up to aluminum. This is the entire thing, everything we've ever discovered. So how do we get protons into helium? Physicists are great at naming things. So this is called the PP chain. It's not the only one, but it takes protons, it goes through this chain process. The 2 protons have to come together in just such a way so that one changes into a neutron. Then you can add another proton because the neutron balances out the electrical repulsion. Then you got 2 helium-3s that you can smash together and make helium. And that's what stars do. Most stars spend most of their life just turning hydrogen into helium. It's a good job. So gravity pulls it together. This process releases energy that pushes it out, and there's this balance going on, right? Until you run out of fuel, and then it contracts. And when it contracts, it gets hotter, and then you can start to fuse bigger things together, like trying to fuse helium together. It would be great if we could take 2 helium, smush them together, but beryllium-8 doesn't even last as long as a Hollywood marriage, and so it's oddly easier to wait for 3 helium to come together and smush together and make carbon. So the carbon in your body, the carbon in diamonds, the carbon in pencil lead was all made in stars by smashing helium together. If you got a big star, this process continues. You run low on fuel, it contracts, you fuse hotter things or bigger things, runs out of fuel, contracts, fuses bigger things, and it speeds up every single stage, kind of like my talk. So the first stage takes 8 million years, but by the time you get down to fusing silicon into iron, it only takes 11 days. And then it contracts one last time and explodes. And then it makes all kinds of big weird stuff. And maybe you've got a neutron star left over or a black hole, it's over there, you just can't see it. And then the whole thing starts over again. So now we've got stuff bigger than iron that's gonna go into a protostar and make a new solar system. And we think this happened at least twice in our neighborhood. So here's a periodic table. Things in yellow made the Big Bang. Things in pink made by stars fusing them together. Things in light blue made in labs by humans. Everything else made in weird astrophysical sites like supernova, neutron star mergers. So that's where these things came from, but it still doesn't explain why there's more iron than copper. For that, we need magic numbers. So electrons come in shells, and if you got a closed shell, it's a noble gas, special properties. Neutrons and protons also come in shells, and if one of those is full, we call it a magic nucleus. And if both of them are full, we call it doubly magic nuclei, because we're really good at naming things. The numbers are slightly different, but magic nuclei stick together better. So all nuclei have to be held together by energy. Nature likes to do things that are energetically favorable, like turning 2 protons and 2 neutrons into helium. In fact, all the small stuff, you smush it together, you get energy out. All the big stuff, you break it apart, like uranium, and you get energy out. But iron's up there at the peak. Nature cannot get energy out of iron by smushing it together or breaking it apart unless you have like a supernova. And so it builds up, it doesn't go anywhere. So we end up with a lot of iron, that's the Fe there. We also end up with a lot of oxygen, helium, and lead-208 because those are doubly magic nuclei and they just stick together longer and better. This is our solar system, by the way. So it starts with a Big Bang, protons fuse together into things like iron, stars, big stars explode and make all the heavier stuff, but it is the nuclear properties as depicted in a church window there that tell us why we have more iron than copper, and that's why barns are red.
Welcome back to the second half. We have, yes, I love the enthusiasm. All right, thank you. Woo, woo, woo. You thought the first half was good. The second half should be even better. We've got 4 more speakers and another diverse group of interesting subject matter. Our first Speaker after intermission is Dr. Antoinette Hildwine, who's a smart, caring, and full of energy person, who's a physician here in town. I can say I have known Antoinette for a little while now, and I can think of very few faults that Antoinette has, except for maybe her attraction to fastidious, fanatical greenskeepers. Her husband is, that's who he runs. That's the trophy husband right there. She wears many hats, and in no particular order: a doctor, mother, wife, sister, daughter, friend, niece, cousin, colleague, all of these. And the most important and my life's most precious work, she says, is being the mother to 4 amazing young men and helping raise them with my husband that we just met of 30 years. Born in Chicago, yes, downtown Chicago, and moved to Muskegon 28 and a half years ago. She has worked for 28 years as a Muskegon family medicine physician, helping to care for entire families and multiple generations, all ages and all stages. It's an honor and a privilege to help care for my patients, she says, and their families. Currently, she also works as medical director of health informatics for Trinity for the state of Michigan. What does that mean? Informatics. This means that she oversees the use of electronic health records so they can be a helpful tool in providing the safest, highest quality care to patients and the communities. Given her title, it may be hard to believe, but she's a bit of a health enthusiast. And she did her first marathon with her 3 boys in the fall of 2023. She enjoys photography, traveling, and hopes to learn to speak Italian. So, without further ado, please welcome to the stage Dr. Antoinette Hildwine and her talk, Health and Wellness.
All right, yes, Antoinette Hildwine here. Can you hear me now? We'll do that. So let's go. Thanks for letting me speak to you today, taking a journey about health and wellness. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Here we see a happy person vibrantly embracing life. When we speak of wellness, we mean the art of practicing healthy habits to attain better physical and mental health, to be thriving, not just surviving. Wellness, like many things in life, is a balance between multiple elements, an interplay, if you will, between items for our mind, our body, and our soul. Some of these elements include our intellectual state, socializing, spirituality, and even vocational. Other elements of wellness include our environment, our homes and the outdoors, a person's physical well-being, and very importantly, one's emotional state. On this journey, we're going to tackle some of these elements to learn more about living longer, more vibrant, and engaged lives. The Blue Zone study research found areas of the world with people living to 100. We learned a lot about wellness in that study. One of the pieces of the puzzle is faith. Having faith improves our wellness, whether it be a religion, a faith and community, or our ancestors. It's a common bond showing we belong to something bigger than ourselves, and we aren't alone. Another piece of the puzzle, movement. I know exercise can be a nasty word for some, but weaving physical activity into our daily lives is healthy. Natural movement helps balance and flexibility. Strength training for bone health and cardio, well, that's good for heart protection. Movement is actually crucial. Everything in moderation, though. One area of the Blue Zones has a saying that translates to eat until you're 80% full, helping to control our portion size and promote healthy weight. It's easy to notice when you're more full. It's a lot easier than counting calories. Food and nutrition also keep us well. It's not just how much we eat, but what we eat. A whole food, plant-based diet has been shown to be the healthiest. Healthy for our heart, our weight, and even in preventing cancers. Watch what you eat. Eat foods in nature's wrappers, not man-made. Purpose, or plan de vida. This is a picture of my husband and 2 sons looking outward, searching, encouraging us to find a purpose. Having a purpose helps us to wake daily and with energy, ready to engage in life. Ikigai is a Japanese word to describe a motivating force, something that gives a person a drive or reason for living. Socializing is a very important aspect of wellness. We are social beings. Having an immediate social circle, one that we can depend on, is key to living longer. Connection to others is important. We see this over and over in our wellness research. Wine. I know this might be a little controversial, but it's true. Why? Well, red wine in particular does have heart protective components, but more importantly, the wine itself is paired with socializing. When wine is had, it is done so amongst friends and connecting. Family. It's noted, regardless of age, healthy and well persons keep their family members close, particularly when it comes to the elderly. It helps the wellness for all, having the elders involved. It teaches compassion to the young and helps to carry on cultures and traditions that bind us. Don't forget about relaxation and playtime. They're necessary as well. Finding time to unwind daily helps to lower stress and the stress hormones in our body. It helps increase the dopamine and the serotonin, chemicals that make us feel calmer and happier. Make time daily to de-stress. It does a body and a mind good. Intellectual wellness is also important. Always be curious. Keep learning, keep reading, and asking questions. Knowledge is power, and in the words of Dr. Seuss, the more you know, the more places you'll go. Staying more engaged intellectually actually helps to prevent dementia and Alzheimer's. Mental health. Even if you have the best physical health, if you're not mentally well, you're not well. So be mindful of signs in yourself and others that may point to a problem. Being less engaged or isolated, lack of motivation or energy, irritability, dark thoughts. Humans typically like helping others. Don't deprive those who care about you the privilege of helping. Connecting. Forming genuine connections is really impactful. Connect with your family, with your friends, your community. Volunteer. Giving back and connecting with others gives us a sense of belonging and purpose. Physical health is a part of wellness too. What can you do? See your doctor. Follow up on the recommendations. Remember the tools for dental work. Brush your teeth twice a day for 2 full minutes and see your dentist twice a year. And always wash your hands. An old adage, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. It's very true for maintaining health. Get your labs done. Learn about that higher sugar level before you're diagnosed with diabetes. Learn about your cholesterol before the heart attack. Get the mammograms and your colonoscopies. Early detection of cancer means a better chance at a cure. Another way to stay healthy, and yes, I know it's controversial, is immunizations. They do prevent illness and disease, and while there are side effects, they are a key to your health and the community's health. When you get a vaccine, you actually protect those around you as well. Smallpox. Many of us have had those vaccines, but that is gone now. Environment. Where we live, the environment itself plays a role. Research shows that going outdoors even for 10 minutes a day reduces stress. Sunshine improves our mood. When we think of our environment, remember to reduce and limit the exposure to toxin. Don't smoke. So this is my journey. Thanks for coming with me. Remember, healthy and well life is about balance. It's about daily activities promoting your mind, your body, and your spirit. The foods we eat, staying active physically and intellectually. It's about preventative care. Staying connected to family and friends and trying new things.
That was great. How about we have Dr. Hildwine B. What's it called? The Surgeon General? That would be great. Why not? Let's start a campaign tonight. But I think the intellectual part is tonight. You're here. You're being healthy by being here. So congratulations. But I do want to apologize for having cookies and not wine at break. We'll work on that for next year. All right. Next we have Mayor Ken Johnson. And Ken Johnson I've known for quite a few years, but he's a proud graduate of Muskegon Public Schools, and also went to Oakview Elementary, Steele Middle School, and then of course ended at Muskegon High School. So he says, go Big Reds. After high school, a little bit about Ken. He attended George Washington University, where he earned a dual bachelor's degree in international affairs and political science. And then he came back home. He came to Muskegon in 2009. And what's that, 16 years ago, 14 and a half? He's done a few things since then. And his desire, he came back for his desire to help Muskegon move forward. He became active in the NIMS Neighborhood Association, where he lives, and he remains a board member. And then in 2013, he successfully ran for the City Commission. And if you don't think your vote counts, there was a primary. How many votes did Ken win by? I got it right here for you. 1. There were 4 candidates that moved on after the primary, and Ken was number 4, and he won by 1 vote. And then he went out and talked to people during the primary and the general election and ended up in the top 2. So your vote counts. Got a little close to the mic, sorry. So he's been on the City Commission since 2013. And when he came back, he was working remotely as a senior analyst for a global media analysis firm in DC. And then he transitioned to being a financial planning career to serve his community in another way. I must say that many think being mayor brings, at least when if you look at Facebook and whatnot, many think mayor brings fame and riches. Not in Muskegon, it doesn't. And I don't know what Ken earns, but it's not very much for being mayor, and you couldn't live off of it. So, but he sacrifices much of his life to serve as mayor. It's more like a second full-time job for him. Prior to being mayor, he was served 2 4-year terms as at-large city commissioner and then became mayor. And he is the first openly gay person to serve as an at-large commissioner and now as mayor. Muskegon, he says, has risen from tough times, and I think Mayor Johnson is an important part of that transformation, an advocate for growth and business development, but I think Ken is also a fierce advocate for social justice. The vulnerable and forgotten are as important as the wealthy and the privileged. So, without further ado, please help me welcome to the stage Mayor Ken Johnson. There he is. He likes to make an entrance.
Thank you so much, Andy, for that kind introduction. And you're absolutely right, I don't do this for the money. It ends up averaging out to less than minimum wage. It is a calling, and I very much appreciate serving our community. And so, yes, I am Ken Johnson, mayor of this magnificent city of Muskegon. It is my pleasure to be here with you all today. This presentation is a reflection of some of the significant moments and initiatives and projects that have gotten underway in approximately the last decade or so, many of which the city does have a direct involvement or role to play in it, and that I've been privileged and fortunate to be part of as well. And others are just things that are happening in the community but are significant. And this is just a few of them. As I was putting this together, it's like, oh, there's another one, there's another one. There's just so much going on in Muskegon, and so this just encapsulates a little bit of what's going on here. And so, and excuse me too, I'm only operating in 3 hours of sleep, so I might stumble here, and I did lose a couple of my slides, but we will wing it and get through this. So, let's go. All right, construction of a new Muskegon's Farmers Market and Kitchen 242 helped to ignite our downtown Muskegon's revival. A community-driven capital campaign made this $4 million investment possible. And today's the city's farmers market is the second largest in the state, attracting more than 10,000 visitors every weekend. And Kitchen 242, a rentable licensed commercial kitchen, supports a wide array of food businesses. Oh, and we are already on to outsiders. Once mocked Muskegon as the beer tent capital of the world, but our community's response was, hold my beer. As the craft brewing industry took root here, invested millions, and advanced our downtown's revival, including Unruly, Pigeon Hill, Rake Beer, and collaboratively working to launch the Burning Foot Beer Festival. We also, housing at all price points. That is a mantra at City Hall. The City Commission consistently supports tax incentives for low-income housing, and city staff work diligently to attract developers. In the past decades, these developers have invested nearly $50 million and built more than 200 lower-income housing units. And remarkably, we're going to see another $75 million invested in the next couple years to construct more than 200 additional apartments. And here, Trinity Health invested nearly $300 million in a new hospital tower and renovating facilities at its Sherman Boulevard campus. And say what you will about the organization, and I'm not keen on monopolies or religious directives affecting medical care either, but I am incredibly grateful for Trinity Health choosing to invest here. They could have built elsewhere, yet they opted to remain in the city of Muskegon, and they continue to be our largest single employer. And I'm proud to have led efforts to accommodate the cannabis industry here in the city, starting with medical marijuana in 2018 and adult use recreational marijuana in 2019. Nearly $100 million have been invested in cannabis operations, redeveloping blighted buildings, creating hundreds of jobs, and generating significant new tax revenue, including funding our social equity initiatives. Now, when I joined the City Commission in 2014, the LC Walk Arena was struggling. This is going to be a speed reading exercise. At the arena was heavily subsidized. There was debate on whether to offload the arena or even to demolish it. Ultimately, the city found ways to invest millions of dollars in upgrades and renovations. New leaseable restaurant spaces were built to generate more revenue to add vibrancy to downtown Main Street. Here we go, the Van Dyke Convention Center. It's Muskegon's new convention center, opened in 2021, made possible by public-private partnerships. The city bonded for and constructed the facility. Hotel owner Parkland Properties agreed to finance the bonds through room rental fees, and the county guaranteed bond payments, which is nice to have when a pandemic's going on. More than $22 million was invested in the convention center and $8 million in upgrading the hotel next door. Here we have educational investments in our community. Muskegon Community College, helping to bolster downtown's revival by investing $15 million in vacant buildings to house applied technology programs, experiential learning, and entrepreneurial studies. Meanwhile, Muskegon Public Schools invested $35 million in its new Charles Hackley Middle School. Hey, I got extra time. Charles Hackley Middle School, with the school's bond election happening in 2020, I'm so grateful that our voters, in spite of the unsettling effects and being in the midst of a global pandemic, opted to dig deeper into their pockets and invested in our youth. So I'm so incredibly grateful for the voters of the Muskegon Public Schools District. And I don't know what happened to the rest of the slides.
One second.
Okay. I can speak fast. I don't know if you can all understand. I get told I speak too fast sometimes. And it's a challenge. I'm a verbose person, if you know me. So trying to communicate things in like 20-second increments is really, really hard for me. And I like to give detail and a lot of information. And so trying to distill that down was definitely a challenge.
Tell us more about Muskegon, and we'll be with you in like 2 minutes.
All right. What's that? Hotel? Oh, yes. I mean, we got a new hotel coming online. We just voted on it yesterday with regard to some tax incentives that happen. That is not in one of these slides, so I'm happy to talk about that right now. It is going to be an Elements by Marriott. and that's going to be downtown right across from the GVSU Innovation Hub. Coincidentally, I have a private office there, so now there's going to be a restaurant at the hotel too, so I'm going to just be able to walk over there and enjoy lunch at the restaurant. So that's exciting. So that's going to be a, I forget how many millions of dollars. It's tens of millions of dollars investment, but it's going to be a new hotel right downtown, and it's going to be connected to the Lakeshore Trail as well, which is excellent. And also, it provides for longer stays and also accommodates if you have pets, which is a nice feature.
Ready when you are.
What? Oh, here we go. Oh, yes. So we're so fortunate to live in a community with the attitude reflected in this window, whatever it takes to build great futures. Due to the tremendous efforts of so many people, businesses, and groups working together, the Boys and Girls Club of the Muskegon Lakeshore opened a new clubhouse on Muskegon Lake to serve youth. And despite setbacks and challenges, our community prevailed in making this a reality. And I'm so pleased that the city of Muskegon could support that endeavor with a $1 million grant. And here, as you heard me earlier talk about housing at every price point being our mantra, and this looks kind of busy, and the reason why is because we have been so busy as a city trying to develop more housing at all price points. Missing middle housing, higher end housing. We did a housing needs assessment in 2022 that reflected we need nearly 3,000 more housing units, which is a mix of rentals and owner-occupied and apartments and single-family homes that need to be coming in line within the next 5 years by 2027. We did significant zoning reform to help move that forward as well, which I'm excited about. That was an infrastructure project. We are investing a lot into our infrastructure, both above ground and underground, and that is absolutely exciting. And here are just a few of our playground installations. We've invested in park improvements across the city with play equipment, pavilions, and bathrooms. In 2022, we revived our Parks and Recreation Department, which had been dissolved more than a decade prior. We now have a Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee comprised of residents throughout the city, and we're engaging in long-term parks planning. And so here the Muskegon Museum of Art is undergoing a major $15 million expansion, same as when the museum opened in 1912. Its present expansion is powered by philanthropy. So thankfully the museum has supporters near and far, and once its expansion is completed, which will have 19,000 square feet of exhibition space, positioning it to be a regional and national destination befitting of a city on the move. And here is the latest installment of the Muskegon City Public Art Initiative. This piece, titled The Portal, is the creation of local artist Lee Brown. And by the way, today's his birthday, so happy birthday, Lee, and cheers to you. Lee designed and constructed the portal with intentionality, working with local suppliers and contractors to create and install his sculpture, which honors Muskegon's industrial heritage and invites you to step into Muskegon's future, a future that is boundless and bright, propelled by a culture of collaboration. And that was Adelaide Point, which is a major redevelopment along the Muskegon Lake waterfront that used to house foundries and industry that polluted the lake and the watershed, and now we're seeing mixed-use development, over $80 million invested, potentially up to $200 million, supporting the blue-green economy here. Here's the Shaw Walker facility. I recently toured it. It is a significant undertaking, over 600,000 square feet of former industrial property that's being redeveloped, and I just love those columns. They're Albert Kahn columns, trademark columns. The refreshed concrete looks amazing. Here's the BC Cow plant. It shuttered in April 12, 2016, but Verplank has taken it over and has redeveloped it to have its own port and shipping. So instead of coal being shipped in and burned, we now are having construction aggregate come in to support the growth and development that's happening throughout West Michigan. And so thankful for Verplank, because that 1 million tonnage that they bring in helps ensure that we can keep Muskegon Channel, which is an incredibly important waterway, dredged. Here we're looking at Mart Dock. As you may know, the city of Muskegon is undergoing an initiative right now. Go to Connect Muskegon page and find out about connecting community to the water, ports, and parks to find out more about that slide before here. Now, this is the city commission that we have presently. It is the most diverse city commission in Muskegon's history. It is for the first time in our history a woman majority city commission as well. And I'm so incredibly happy by that and pleased by that, because when I first joined the City Commission in 2014, there were 0 women on the commission at that time. And so I'm thrilled that we have a woman majority City Commission now, and also we have a woman majority Planning Commission, and that's who we appoint. Now, that last slide was the Muskegon's logos that have been recently refreshed. We hadn't had a new logo in over 30 years. And so as part of our recent efforts, we've been bolstering communications and engagement. And so that communication and engagement team was like, we need new branding, we need unified branding, we need to build trust in how we communicate with our community. And so they took on that initiative with considerable engagement with our community. And that conscientiousness and that intentionality that they pursued in that engagement is reflected in the work they do for our city and everything, from the newsletters to the communications online to the statements that were released just recently with regard to ICE. I'm just so appreciative for that team and everybody at City Hall for the work they do. We have an amazing team that is moving Muskegon forward. So thank you.
That was great. Is our risk manager here? They didn't see that, did they? All right. Woo. All right. Exciting things. Yeah, it's been great to live here the last 20 years and see how Muskegon has changed. And thank you, Ken, and many others for all that you've done to move Muskegon forward. Muskegon's making moves, for sure. Our next speaker is Erin Hoffman. Erin Hoffman is an artist and instructor of art at MCC. I've known Erin, I guess, since she interviewed here. Somehow I got on that hiring committee. Not that I knew what I was doing. But she did a great presentation there and has been doing a wonderful job teaching at MCC for many years now. I appreciate Erin for her teaching and her friendship, but also I think that she often doesn't say no when I ask her to do things, so that's why she's here tonight. But over the years, also we've done other things. She helped with Art and 8 for a while. That's where we had 8 artists had 8 hours to do projects, and Lee Brown was part of that one year too. And so it's always appreciated Erin's work and participation in the college. Also, Erin helped to put together the construction of the art and music building here at MCC, and if you haven't gotten to check that out, please go down there. I think it opened in 17 or so, and is a really great facility. And as you walk through it, think that hey, a lot of this was Erin's idea. So and I think it's a great building. A little bit more background about Erin. Erin's been involved in the art community since early childhood. She was first published at age 6 in a local Fort Wayne newspaper called The Sentinel, which my father got that newspaper, and so I read that. I'm not sure I read her piece, but anyways, for her visual interpretation of A Sunny Day. She grew up, she is currently a full-time art instructor at MCC, teaching printmaking, art appreciation, drawing, painting, figure drawing, contemporary art history, and 2D design. She received her bachelor's degree of fine art in 2001 from the University of Northern Iowa in Cedar Falls, Iowa, and she received her master's of fine arts degree in 2005 at the University of Georgia. Both degrees are in printmaking. As I mentioned, Erin is quite active on college campuses, many different committees, and she helps to organize the college's art gallery, which is just outside here of Overbrook Theater. So whenever you come here to plays and things like this at the Overbrook Theater, make sure you check out the art gallery. It always has wonderful exhibits. She also enjoys gardening, spending time with her 2 dogs, and if it was not for her love of teaching art, she would turn pro in pickleball. So please help me give a warm welcome to Erin Hoffman, some impressions of today.
I'm not sure about the pickleball comment, but we'll see, maybe. I am ready to go. I want my art to be, whoa, the title slide was supposed to be the first 20 seconds, you guys. Can you go back? Okay. I want my art to be a reflection of today with a nod towards history. I also want it to be timeless, something that reveals truth about our time, but also is meaningful to somebody 50 or 100 years from now. For me, art making is a way of figuring out the world and trying to document my time and place in it. Much of the process itself is also cathartic to me. I'm not sure how other people get through their lives without making art. I have a home studio, I have a 4-bedroom house, and the entire upstairs is devoted to making art. I'm very lucky to have this space. This is work that I made during the pandemic. There are 8 cards that have petri dishes with different pandemics from throughout history. There is Ebola, the plague, HIV, yellow fever, Zika, polio, COVID, and SARS. This is what COVID looked like under the microscope. I got most of my research from the Centers for Disease Control and the World Health Organization website. I read that the color that they stain the slides is an aesthetic decision that's made by the researcher to delineate different areas of the slide. So when I made my cards, I made my own decisions about the color scheme. The cards are in the form of oracle cards, which are similar to tarot cards with less structure. Each card is supposed to have a prediction of your future. There were 4 positive predictions and 4 negative predictions. People always ask me how long it takes when making art, and the truth is that it takes as long as it takes. This piece took 5 years. Sometimes in the winter I pick horribly tedious, depressing things to do in the studio, like making drawings of dead Civil War soldiers. I especially was interested in their hands, their final expression of life. I get a lot of my reference images from the Library of Congress, which is a wonderful resource of Americana. Pretty much everything that was ever published is available there for download, and it is open source. This is the final result of that image. I had a large paper filled with dead bodies, and the pandemic happened, so I decided to make it about the pandemic. There are masks in the foreground, and the big circle is meant to indicate the virus. I became interested in the parallel between the American Civil War and now, a politically divided country with a dramatically huge loss of lives in a relatively short period of time. This is a piece with an image of Arlington National Cemetery on top and mostly Southern dead soldiers on the bottom, Civil War soldiers on the bottom. I had a piece, I usually work in a series, and this series parallel electrical power with political power. Both can be very dangerous, but are in some ways hidden. This series paired Greek and Roman sculptures that represented the founders of democracy with current American political discourse. I wonder what they would think of our current state of affairs. Here, Roman busts stare sternly as Trump delivers the State of the Union address. I work with printmaking. I work with a technique that is called a reductive woodcut, where I carve a large stamp and print colors individually. In the beginning, I carve out everything that I want to be the white of the paper, and then I print it, and then I carve out everything that I want to be that color. Eventually, I remove most of the block. Here you can see images in stages. So the first is over on the left. I've done images that combine relief printmaking with intaglio. So there's a relief print on the left, and then intaglio is created with an image using acid and it resists on a copper plate. You push the ink into the cracks, and then you wipe the surface off, and it's printed. With these processes, I can print multiples on different colored paper with different colored inks and have different visual effects. This is an image of a Greek sculpture with its mouth broken off in front of the ceiling of the Supreme Court. I wind up with a lot of leftover prints and I created a series where I collaged different prints together. All three of these images have similarities in themes, but they're entirely different and reconfigured. I called this series Remnants. Each of the images have their initial meaning, but when they're combined together, there's an entirely new dialogue. Working on these is much more intuitive of a process than making prints. I'm responding to colors and textures immediately rather than planning and executing something, so it's a different process. This is an image from a piece from 20 years ago. This was the first time I was exploring American identity and history. It was a piece that began with a road trip from Georgia to California and back. And it was about Western expansion and the romance of the West, American West. This is the newest series that I've been working on. These are images from Trump rallies and Trump parades where I've whited out the flags. I like that I could change the dialogue of the message with very minimal effort. Are they surrendering? Am I removing their voice? Are they surrendering to him? I don't know. Frankly, working on this image over the summer made me not want to do political art anymore. So we'll see. I'm sure that I'll jump back into it, but I've been making utilitarian leather objects since then. So we'll see. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Erin. If you get a chance to go to one of Erin's shows that she puts on every now and then with her artwork, please do so. And if you can't do that, you can come to my house because I've got a few pieces. And I know when I teach online, I try to get some of her pieces behind me at times, and usually the class goes a lot better. And people are always asking, where'd you get that? Where'd you get that? So. All right, we're to our final speaker of the night. Last but definitely not least is Jocelyn Hines. And I wanted to mention, one of the ways I've gotten to know Jocelyn is the Muskegon Young Black Professionals that she helps to lead is a part of this event as well on February the 13th. And I don't know, did I bring this up earlier? Okay, well anyways, I hope you're able to make it. And so it's been good working with Jocelyn on planning that event. A little bit about Jocelyn. Jocelyn Hines is a proud Muskegon Heights native with a passion for making her hometown and beyond shine. As a Muskegon Heights High School alum, she took her love for community to Michigan State University, where she studied social relations and policy with a minor in public relations. Never one to slow down, as you'll see, she later earned her master's degree in public administration from GVSU in 2022. After Jocelyn jumped into the world of politics, we're working on exciting campaigns like a mayoral and a state representative race. These days, she's making waves as the development analyst for the city of Muskegon, where she's all about turning big ideas into real opportunities for growth, as we saw from Ken's presentation. When Jocelyn's not busy making her city a better place, you can find her pouring her heart into volunteering. She's the powerhouse behind Muskegon Young Black Professionals, as mentioned earlier, and that's an organization that uplifts black professionals. She's also a proud board member of the United Way of the Lakeshore, a core member of the Health Equity Council, and an active member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority. Faith is her foundation, and she loves serving in her local church. What's her mission? To build vibrant, diverse communities where everyone has a voice and seat at the table. Jocelyn's all about embracing challenges, celebrating victories, and making sure young black professionals feel seen, heard, and valued. Please help me welcome to the stage Jocelyn Hines, Fake It Till You Make It, Surviving the Imposter Syndrome.
My coworker said I needed to start with a joke. So, what do you call a fake noodle? An imposter. All right, you can hit it. Hello, and welcome to Imposter Syndrome Anonymous. My name is Jocelyn Hines, and I'm 3 to 6 months clean from imposter syndrome. I know it's hard to believe, but I am in recovery without even going through the 12-step program. Imposter syndrome may be a new concept to some, so let me explain. Imposter syndrome is when you feel like you're not as good or as capable as others think you are, even if you've achieved a lot. You might think your success is due to luck or help from others, and you worry about being found out as a fraud. You wear a mask all the time, hoping no one really discovers how you feel about yourself. Let's start with high school. I graduated from Muskegon Heights High School, where I had a great experience. I played volleyball and softball, was a member of the band, served as homecoming queen, and proudly graduated as my class salutatorian. Along the way, I made incredible friends and even more unforgettable memories. Although I had a great high school experience, there was a defining moment that triggered my journey with imposter syndrome. Right after graduation, I found myself questioning, who am I? How did I get here? I've managed to navigate this space, but how will I do it outside of my comfort zone? Am I really good enough? A defining moment for me was when a family friend told my parents that I should consider attending MCC instead of MSU because they didn't think I would survive at a four-year university, given my family and educational background. Looking back, I know MCC was a great choice, but at the time, they knew my dream was to go away and attend a four-year university. I was accepted into several four-year universities and had the opportunity to attend almost any school in the state. In the end, I chose MSU, go green, where I earned my bachelor's degree in social relations and policy with a minor in public relations, graduating in 4-ish years. In college, I had a great experience. I made lifelong friends, joined organizations like the Black Student Alliance and the Residence Halls Association, and even made the dean's list a few times. But it wasn't always smooth sailing. After struggling my freshman year, I started to question whether all the good grades I earned in high school were real. I eventually reached my goal, but despite everyone's pride and excitement for me, I didn't feel accomplished. After college, I moved back home, not because I couldn't find a job in Chicago or elsewhere, but because deep down, I hadn't fully put myself out there. I was afraid of being found out as a fraud. I knew coming home wouldn't be the worst thing, but with so many people rooting for me when I left from college, returning home felt like a failure. Wanting to make the most of my time at home and build a strong community, I found Muskegon Black Professionals, a group dedicated to creating professional opportunities for Black professionals. Since then, we've been recognized on multiple platforms and featured in various news outlets. While I was home, I also joined the illustrious organization of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, a membership organization that is embedded in sisterhood, scholarship, and service. Out of several women, I was one of the ones selected that was destined for greatness. I also received a Governor's Service Award for Youth Volunteer of the Year for all the work we were doing with Muskegon Black professionals and beyond. I got to go to Detroit to this fancy ceremony, meet the governor, and was even given the award by one of my old college professors. After that, I received even more accolades, including 2017 Progressive Women's Democratic Caucus Young Feminist Award, 2018 Future 15, nominated for an Athena Award, West Michigan Works 20 Under 30, and the Grand Rapids Business Journal 40 Under 40. I had achieved a lot in the few short years I moved back home. On top of all that, in 2022, in the midst of COVID, I completed my master's degree in public administration and really started defining my career in government and getting a better sense of who I wanted to be when I grow up. In the midst of all my accolades, awards, and achievements, I still don't know why I'm here. Do I belong? Will they find out that I don't really know what I'm doing? Ultimately, why are good things happening to me? I was becoming well accomplished, but feeling like an imposter all at the same time. Those thoughts also filtered into my personal life. If I don't feel like I'm good at all the things I'm accomplished in, how will I be as a partner? Never been good in relationships. It opened up a lot of vulnerability where I took on the natural genius side of imposter syndrome. I often felt like a fraud because I couldn't achieve success on the first try. Imposter syndrome made me fear my own inadequacies, especially when I thought about what motherhood would look like. How do I hide my perceived flaws from my child? What if they find out I'm a fraud of a mother? How do I raise my children to believe in their worth and accomplishments when I've struggled with that belief for much of my adult life? Imposter syndrome had such a hold on me that for a while, I didn't even desire marriage and or children. Then there was a shift, a different way of thinking, an epiphany, if you'll say. I had come to some sort of conclusion. I had evolved, I had finally arrived. And the big shift was, I turned 30. In the midst of turning 30, something just kind of clicked in me. I suddenly felt that my 30s were going to be some of the best years of my life. I seriously started to look back over my life and become proud of myself and recognizing all I had accomplished before the tender age of 30. I was settling into my new career. I had joined a cohort of women who were interested in city management. I seriously considered what a true work-life balance looks like. I just simply started talking about myself differently. I went from saying, why me, to why not me? And this has happened only in the series of the last 6 months while in recovery. In conclusion, sometimes we have to fake our way through success. Know that you belong here. You deserve the good things that are happening to you. You are good, enough, and capable. Once you realize this, you will be a recovering imposter like me. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jocelyn, and thank all of our speakers. One last round of applause for all of our speakers. That was a delightful. They put a lot of work into that, and I want to thank them all for their efforts. Great job, everyone. Oh, yes. I'm glad you all decided to say yes to doing this. I hope to do it again. If you enjoyed this and you'd like to participate next year, hey, remember what Jocelyn said? Why not you? So please participate. We're always looking for people. And again, thank you for coming. Drive home safely. And the presenters, I think we're going to take a picture. If you all want to get a picture of the presenters, we'll be up here. Thanks again. Have a good night. Bye-bye.